Welcome to your best day ever. How humble are you? Are you a humble person at all? Or are you one of those that knows it all? Today I want to talk about that. If it's going to be your best day ever, you got to admit that humility goes a long way. And it blesses you a lot because we don't know as much as we need to know. I'm Pastor Eladio Valverde. Welcome. This is your best day ever. I had a couple of friends that thought they knew it all. We were in the same line of work, and we were all required to do a training that we call an internship. And one of the guys says, there is no person living from whom I can learn anything in this organization. And rather than argue with him, I said, well, I'm going to where I can best learn what I perceive to be my weakness. And he says, I'm going to another continent and learn there. And off he went to another continent. The other guy said, I'm just ready to go and teach them all a thing or two. And off he went. And I say that because, honestly and realistically, we always can learn, either good or bad, from everyone we meet. If you meet a person that you say, I don't want to be like her, or I don't want to be like him, you learn that. On the other hand, if you meet a person that says, man, this person has it all together, I think I could learn a thing or two from this person, then you seek to learn all you can from that. At the end of the day, you evaluate, what did I learn today? What sort of blessings did I receive in the interactions that I had with these people? And off you go. An example. When I was 13 years old, I had to undergo a traumatic move in my life. We had never moved before. I only knew one house, one home, and it was in what I thought was the Paradise City, Kingsville, Texas, in South Texas. In the days when, Mom would send the kids out, go play. And really had no idea where me and my friends would go. We didn't usually venture far, but we went here and there. And the area of Kingsville in which we lived was, in those days, as far as we knew, safe. We feared nothing. And we were armed, too. We first had slingshots, and my friend and I were very good shots with those. And later on, we graduated to BB guns. And thank God we didn't shoot our eyes out. And off we went. And all of a sudden, we have to make this dramatic move from this beautiful, in those days, and in my opinion, city or town of Kingsville to the dreaded empire of the North known as Houston, Texas. The economy was such that my dad lost his job where he enjoyed it very much, and I thought I wanted to be just like my dad and follow in his footsteps, and he was a milkman. And I thought I wanted to be a milkman too. But the creamery closed down, moved south, and didn't invite my dad to go with him, and so a lot of people found themselves in the same way. Missouri Pacific, where my grandfather had worked, and some men from our church worked for Missouri Pacific. All of a sudden, the Roundhouse closed down in Kingsville, and these men were scattered. Some went to Houston, one went to Austin, one went to Palestine, Texas, the other one went to Harlingen, Texas, where the creamery went. And so men like my dad that found themselves with no job, and my dad tried anything and everything that was open, and finally made the very stressful but necessary decision to go on his own to Kingsville to see what lay out there for him to pursue, to keep providing for us. And thanks be to God, he found a ride from our neighbor that we both lived in corner houses. Our neighbor lived across the street from us, corner on Avenue A. And the neighbor said, we'll give you a ride to Houston. And let's see what's out there. So my dad found a job early enough and got an apartment where he lived alone. And every single Friday, he would hitchhike from Houston to Kingsville so that he could spend time with his family. And on Sunday, somebody from Kingsville that was going back to Houston would take my dad back to Houston. What made the decision a few months later for my dad a little bit easier that we should join him was that there was going to be no future for us in Kingsville. And so our minister, one of my favorite ministers at the time, had moved about a year before from Kingsville to Houston. He had been our pastor at El Buen Pastor United Methodist Church, which means the Good Shepherd United Methodist Church, and he was now the pastor at El Buen Pastor United Methodist Church in Houston. And he was, a cool guy, tall gentleman, down to earth, very friendly with the kids. We saw him as a friend and as a very caring and attentive pastor. And so we didn't have to look for a church. We just had to look for El Buen Pastor in Houston, which my dad did, and found it. And there we went. And getting back to learning from people and finding people that become mentors to us, there was a volunteer youth director at our church. We had a sizable youth group in those days at El Buen Pastor Houston, and this young man was either married or dating the woman he would soon marry, and they were both students at the University of Houston. And he had a relatively new Volkswagen station wagon. I don't remember the make or model of those. Well, I do the make. It was a Volkswagen. I don't know what the model name was. But this guy taught me a lot, whether I wanted to or not. This guy did not know the meaning of the word no, or later, or I'm not interested. Because I had all of those replies ready to whatever he was going to suggest. That very first Sunday we're there, and he comes up to me and goes, "Hey man, welcome to Houston. The youth are having a picnic this afternoon at San Jacinto Park, State Park." And I said, "Well, I don't have a phone." He said, "You don't need a phone." I said, "Well, I need my dad's permission." He goes, "No, you don't. Your dad already said you could go." And I said, "Well, I don't have a ride." He said, "I'm picking you up at 2:00. Be ready." So I learned there that if you're going to be a successful volunteer in a church, it's good to know how to not accept no or other flimsy excuses that may keep volunteers and participants from participating and being a part of the action. So this guy picks me up at 2 and we went to this picnic, and I had the time of my life. I said, I'm going to like this youth group. I'm going to like this youth director. Now, this man was already called by God. He was going to graduate from the University of Houston, and he was going to go to Atlanta to Candler School of Theology at Emory University. And he impacted my life so much that once I felt the call to ministry, I thought, I'm going to be just like him. And I may even, if I'm going to University of Houston, I may go to Candler at Emory to learn what this guy learned. Well, one of the things I learned about him is he either read a lot or had friends that had tried things that really worked to help us, because that was the year that I was first eligible, to go to youth camp in the summer. In those days, we went to Mount Wesley Methodist Encampment in Kerrville, Texas. And the price per person per week was $20. And that's a lot of money in that day and age. And he said, don't worry about the money. We're going to raise it. We're going to work hard, and we're going to do it. So one afternoon, he said, we're getting together today to raise the majority of the money, if not all of it, this afternoon. He says, we're going to have an egg sale. Okay. I looked around. No eggs. I wasn't worried because this youth director, his name was Dan, was in charge. I trusted him. So off we went. He said, we're going to go 2 by 2, just like Jesus sent his disciples. And you and your partner, he's explaining this to all the group, will go to a home. And he took us to a very nice neighborhood near our church. He said, one of the 2 of you will knock on the door or ring the doorbell. Introduce yourself. Say, I'm from a church youth group. We're raising money to go to camp. And we're wanting to have an egg sale. Would you be so kind as to donate an egg to us? Just 1 egg. And I think 99 or 100% of the people we asked an egg from always said, sure, here you go. And so they come, give us the egg, we take the egg. Awesome, we have it. He said, no, when you have the egg, go next door. And again, ring the doorbell, knock on the door, introduce yourself, tell them again, we're from the youth group, we're trying to raise money to go to camp. We're having an egg sale. Would you like to buy this egg? How much is it? Whatever you want to pay. And it still tickles me that we were so successful doing this. It was such an ingenious, simple idea. Ask an egg from one neighbor, go next door, and sell it. I think the lowest we got was a quarter, 25 cents per egg. Some people gave $5, some gave $10, some gave $2, whatever they had. They wanted to help out. Did they really need that egg? No, they did not. But they had the desire in their heart to bless these kids that were trying to raise money to go to this camp. And if I'm not mistaken, we raised all the money we needed in that one afternoon of having this egg sale, which provided an opportunity for all of us that took part in that egg sale to go to this camp, where I began to feel in my heart and in my spirit the nudging, the pulling, the tugging of God on my life for me to do the same as this man Dan was trying to do in his. So friends, today, learn from every person you can, both the good and the bad. Resolve not to do what didn't please you, and resolve to learn and better whatever you learned that did please you and that did teach you to become the person you know God would have you be. If you want to have a great day, learn all you can and be all you can. And it starts with humility. It starts with that knowledge that I can learn and will learn from anyone that God sends in my path, both good and bad. And I want to be exactly the person that I believe God has called me to be. So friend, make this your best day ever by learning all you can. And that's another thing. Never think you already read it all, you know it all. You have no more learning to do, because that's not true. The more you read, the more you become aware that, man, I don't know half of the stuff that I'd like to know. If you don't believe me, pick up that dusty Bible that you should be reading. Dust it off and start reading again beyond the underlined passages. If you've underlined passages in your Bible, go beyond those and read all that was being said and taught in that passage. And believe me, I guarantee you, you will find at least one thing that you will say, you know what, I did not know that. Or I'm looking at this now, a little older, from a different perspective. And that only teaches me that I need to keep reading I need to keep listening so I can learn more. Ahmed Adio, I love you. I thank God for you. Now go out there and learn. Go out there and be the person that God has asked you to be. May the Lord bless you and keep you. Amen.